There's a light rain today, but it's quite cool in the summer. Now you could see some of the visitors there coming to the Hubei Provincial Museum. Now you could see the entrance of the Provincial Museum. For all of the visitors, they have to register their real name and they can't enter the Provincial Museum with their valid ID card. So they have to make an appointment before they enter the Provincial Museum. After 4 months of closure and silence, and today we welcome a group of visitors to the Hubei Provincial Museum. So today we will take you inside of the Provincial Museum to visit some of the major exhibition halls. So here is the major exhibition hall. Especially, we have a number of treasures of Hubei Museum, including the chime bells from the tomb of Marquis Yi of the Zheng State, and also the sword of the Goujian. And today we have a special guest, and actually the director of the Hubei Provincial Culture and Tourism Department is here to receive the visitors. Can you give us some introduction about the reopening of the Hubei Provincial Museum? So in Hubei Province, we have lowered our emergency response level to level 3, and we actually enter into a new stage of the epidemic prevention and control in Hubei Province. So for today, 5 major public facilities in Hubei Province will reopen to the public. Actually, it is a good news to all the residents who are in Hubei Province, and it actually can facilitate the business resumption for the culture and culture industry in Hubei Province. Some people are saying that once we have reopened these museums, so people can enjoy a better spiritual life. So I believe it is quite tough for all the people who are staying in Hubei, especially for people who have been waiting for 4 months. So right now we are seeing the epidemic prevention and control situation is improving in Hubei province, and people are expecting to come back to the museum. So what are some of the special arrangements? Well, in order to respond to the call of the regular prevention and control, so we are following a strategy of lowering the response level. However, we still insist with a strict prevention and control measure. First, we will restrict the flow of population. So right now, at this special time, we reopen the museum, so we will require all of the visitors to make appointments. And also we will restrict the capacity of each exhibition hall and control the number of visitors in each exhibition hall. So that is to say, we have limited number of visitors every day. So many people are expecting to visit the Provincial Museum. So what is the restriction right now? Because I understand in the past, over tens of thousands of visitors would like to come here on a daily basis. So this time, we open appointment by different time slots. So in the morning and afternoon sessions, so each time slot, we allowed 500 visitors enter the Provincial Museum. By doing that, we can ensure that adequate spacing from different visitors, so we can avoid gathering. This is because of the consideration of the health and safety of our visitors. I hope all the visitors can understand our arrangement. So that is to say, people have to be a bit patient in visiting the Provincial Museum. So if they cannot make the appointment today, maybe you have to wait for a few days and to make the appointment later. So on this special time, I believe all of the visitors will understand this arrangement. So for the Provincial Museum, it is quite large in size and have many exhibitions halls in the museum. So I want to understand what are some of the acceptance and the requirement for each exhibition hall. Well, first of all, we have to ensure that our working staff they're healthy. We have run nucleic acid tests to all of the receptionists and working staff so that we can make sure that our working staff are safe. And second, we have rolled out a thorough disinfection to all the public places. And third, to all the visitors, we will roll out a safety management for all of the visitors. Right at the entrance, we will check their body temperature and also ask them to present their health code. And after they enter into the exhibition hall, we also have some disinfection facilities and equipment to make sure that our visitors they can wash their hands and also to use the sanitizers so that we can ensure the safety and health of the visitors. And also, per requirement from the Joint Prevention and Control mechanism, we also add up some of the filtering system to the air conditioner, so we can open the air conditioner, but at the same time we can ensure a fresh air circulating inside of the Provincial Museum. Well, today when we come here, we can feel it that the air is quite fresh, and we have very good ventilation inside of the Provincial Museum. Even though all of us have to wear a facial mask, but still we feel quite comfortable inside of the Provincial Museum. So I believe today is a special day. Do you have any words to say to our audience? So since the outbreak of COVID-19, I believe all people from Hubei province have gone through a difficult time. Many people are expecting for the reopening day of the Hubei Provincial Museum. Do you have any words to share with other people, other audience? Well, with joint efforts of Chinese people, the epidemic prevention and control in Hubei province have made important progress. Also, we hear the good news that we have lowered the emergency response level in Hubei province. This also shows that Hubei is quite safe, and it also boosts our confidence by lowering the response level, meaning that our public facilities are safe right now. So we will make good use of all of these treasures and cultural relics, so to provide a better spiritual life to all the visitors. I welcome all of you to pay a visit to the Hubei Provincial Museum. Thank you. Thank you all for your dedication. So now I will take you inside of the Provincial Museum and take a look at all of the treasures of the Hubei Museum. So now you could see actually the museum has made some adjustments, especially at the entrance point. Now you could see there were many evacuation channels inside of the Hubei Provincial Museum. For these different areas, people can enter inside of the exhibition hall in an orderly manner. And also you could see all of the marks on the ground to remind our visitors that please exercise social distance and do not form gatherings when you are entering inside of the exhibition hall. And also we have a hand disinfection robot. So I think this is quite intelligent for this equipment. So for this equipment, it will spray liquors, and we will have to clean our hands before we inside of the exhibition hall. And today we're honored to have the curator of this exhibition hall. So he will also provide some of the interpretation about some of the exhibition hall. Now we are coming for one of the major hall, which is the exhibition for the tomb of Marquis Yi of the Zheng State. So now you could see on the ground there is a mark, and to remind our visitors to keep a distance of 1 meter. We have opened several exhibition halls, and this one is the most important one. And for this one, we have a size of 2,000 square meters. In order to ensure a good ventilation, we have opened 3 doors inside of the exhibition hall. So altogether, we have opened 5 doors inside of the exhibition hall. And also we have some ventilators installed inside of the exhibition hall. And all of these visitors, if they want to come to the museum, they have to make an appointment. We can see some of the working staff. They're showing some of the reminders to the visitors to remind people to keep a distance of 1 meter. So for this exhibition hall, it actually closed on January the 22nd, so almost 5 months of closure. So is it the first time that you closed the museum for such a long time? Yes. Well, we're so honored to have the curator to be with us. So maybe he can tell us more about this exhibition. Actually, this one is the bronze crane of the antlers. Well, you could see the body of a crane and also the antlers. And also, if you look at the expression of this item, you could see actually this one is showing that it is welcoming all of the visitors coming back to the exhibition hall. So I believe you used to said if there's no visitors that there's no such a saying that it is a provincial museum. And today we have some visitors today, meaning that the Hubei Provincial Museum reopened to the public. So you could see we have the antlers in this artifacts, meaning that it actually welcoming all of the visitors coming back to the exhibition hall. So I think today we have 4 exhibition hall reopened to the public, namely the chime bells from the tomb of Marquis Yi of the Zheng State, the sword of the Goujian, the blue and white plum vase of the 4 loves in Yuan Dynasty, and actually we are bringing the sword of Goujian to the Panlongcheng exhibition hall. So actually today you can have a look at all of those treasures of the Hubei Provincial Museum. And on this side, you could see different kinds of cooking vessels and the vases. You could see for all of these cooking vessels, they actually demonstrate the social ranking for our ancestors. So this kind of cooking vessel can only found in the true state. So this is what we call the 9th cooking vessel and 8th food container. Can you tell us more about these vessels? So in the historic documentation, we always talking about 九鼎, what we mean 9 cooking vessels. And for the feudal kings, actually some of them are using cooking vessels with 7 legs. However, if people at the higher social rankings, they will be using the cooking vessel of 9 legs. And also some people are saying a king may use a cooking vessel with 12 stands. And all of these cooking vessels are of great historic significance in terms of the archaeology research. Well, I think this one is quite exquisite. Can you tell us more about this relic? What is this? This is what we call a 尊盘. This is the most exquisite one for the bronzeware. So this one, the 尊 is actually a wine vessel, and also the matching pan is a water container. So this is considered as a ritual vessel, so it may not be pragmatic in terms of the using. For this kind of ritual vessel, it also can represent the social ranking of people who are using it. They are representative of the intricate decorated bronzewares. Now you could see it on the surrounding site of this vessel. It has over 80 types of dragons encarved on this kind of container. So how did they make that? What is the technique? So I believe it is quite difficult for the people back in the old days to have this kind of decoration. I believe this is the most complicated and the most beautiful of all the bronze ritual vessels. So the wine vessel is put on the pan for cooling or heating the wine. So this is using a special technique to make this kind of wine vessel. So I think they have to use a special technique to carve all of these kind of dragons. And I hear that there is a replicated piece of this 尊盘. Well, actually we do not have a replicated piece of that, because for this kind of artifacts, it's very difficult to replicate. So people are using wax to put on top of this wine vessel, and also we need a large group of workers to carve the dragons on top of this wine vessel. So that is to say, for this one, it cannot be completely replicated because it is too complicated to be replicated. Let's continue our journey. And I found many wine vessels displayed in this exhibition hall. This is the twin vase. It is quite artistic. So you could see it at the bottom part, the stand. It shows 4 different divine beasts. So it looks like a tiger and looks like a dragon. And for these 4 divine beasts, they're trying to hold up to the twin vase. So I think it is quite innovative for the design of this kind of vase. So back in the old days, people are already calling this kind of creatures as mythical or divine creatures. Again, this is quite artistic. It requires a special technique to make such kind of artifacts. So for these 2 vases, I believe it has about 1 meter tall. So I believe for the designer for these artifacts, they must be alcoholic. But for this kind of wine bottle or wine vessel, if you look at that closely, these 2 are not identical. If you look closer, it is a little bit different. It's almost identical, but not completely identical. In the past, people were using clay to make all of these kind of vessels. So for this vase is actually created from a model of ceramics. So for these two vessels, they are made from a ceramic model. So after you complete the modeling of the bronzeware, you have to remove the models. It is quite different from what we have nowadays, because nowadays when we're making this kind of bronzeware, they have to keep the template or keep the models for future use. But in the past, people have to pay a heavy price in order to make this kind of bronzeware. It also demonstrates a high degree of craftsmanship of our ancestors. So I can tell 2,000 years ago, people are putting a lot of innovations and imaginations in designing all kinds of artifacts. Actually, this kind of craftsmanship have been carried forward to nowadays, where there are many treasures displayed here. What about this one? So I believe for this kind of items, sometimes we saw it in the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. This one is what we call the bronze zhenfo. Again, this is also a wine vessel. When you open up this vessel, you could see inside of that it is a fo, and for the other one we call it jian. Sometimes we are actually putting ice cubes inside of jian. So some people are consider this as an ancient refrigerator. So people will put wine inside of one bottle, and then people will ice inside of the jian so that it can help to cool down the wine. So actually this is what we call an ancient refrigerator back in 2,400 years ago. But people may be curious, how can they found ice cubes? Well, back in the winter times, and people would try to collect all of the ice cube, and they will put those ice cubes in the basement. And in summer, they will bring back of these cubes back and put it into the jian to make sure that they can use these ice cubes to lower the temperature and cool down the wines. And for this design, you could see once again you have 4 types of mythical creatures. It is very exquisite in the design. For our ancestors, I believe they really fond of using creatures or animal shapes in their design. It is quite artistic. So this one is the bronzeware. So I think this one is quite heavy. So what is the weight of these relics? Well, I would say hundreds of kilograms. Well, I want to show you another wine vessel. I think this one is taller than me. So for this vessel, it has a weight of 300 kilograms, and it can store over 400 kilograms of wine. And actually, we discovered 2 types of this wine vessel. So we think this one is actually in relates to the military activities. When people are going out on wars, maybe they will bring one of these wine vessel with them. So I think this will provide some of the wine to the soldiers and to motivate the soldiers when they're fighting at the war field. So nowadays we are using quite exquisite wine vessel, but from this exhibition we can tell our ancestors, they are using wine vessels with a larger size. But if we look at closer on the pattern of this wine vessel, it is quite exquisite. They are also using a special technique to design this kind of wine vessel. I think it is quite difficult to make it, because for such big of the bronzeware, you must have a very large yao, which is a place to make all of this bronzeware, have to be extremely large. For the bronzeware, it actually depending on the ceramic model. A model is playing a key role in creating all kinds of bronzeware. So we always saying that the bronzewares and the ceramics are playing a key role in the past days. So we are coming to the center point of this exhibition hall. So that is the chime bells of the tomb of the Marquis of Zheng State. I believe all of you have saw these kind of chime bells in your textbooks. But actually, we are not having many occasions to hear the sound of these chime bells. For this one, it is considered as the cultural relics. So I don't think we have to use it. So first, when we unearth this kind of chime bells, we are checking to better understand these chime bells, and we actually organizing an online concert, and we are performing these chime bells. And the second time we play these chime bells is to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the founding of People's Republic of China. That is back in 1984. And the last time we played these chime bells is in 1997, when Hong Kong returning to People's Republic of China. So altogether, we only play these chime bells for 3 times. So let's take a look at these chime bells. It is quite heavy in its weight, so altogether it has around 5 tons. So for these chime bells, it is comprising of 65 units, which is arranged in 8 groups and 3 layers. So for the height is about 152.3 centimeters. So in terms of the size of the bells and the chimes, it actually will determine the musical scale. But if you look at closer on each one of the chime bells, it is a little bit different in the design, because for all of these chime bells, it will represent different musical scales. So can you tell us more about the properties of these chime bells? If we compare it with piano, we would say these chime bells have 8 musical scales. So it is equivalent to the musical scale of the piano. And also, it can also play the scale of a C major. And also you could see some of the marks on the different chime bells. So if you look at closer, you could see it can identify the different types of the musical scale in different chime bells. And also we have 12 set covers below the copper and wood frame. That is to say, they're using special marks to identify the different musical scale. Well, actually, the curator are saying a lot of technical terms, so you may not understand, including myself. Can you try to elaborate on some of the marks that is carved on the chime bells? So maybe once again, I will compare the chime bells to the piano. So we have the black and the white keys and the musical scale. So you can actually compare the chime bells to the piano and also compare the musical scale to the keys of piano. So once again, it's actually a kind of art for the ancestors to play the chime bells. Actually, it's so exciting for myself to see the chime bells. And also some people who are from Hubei province, and they haven't seen these chime bells for 4 months. Well, I would like to further explain the chime bells from the tomb of the Marquis Yi of the Zheng state. So you could see 6 types of different patterns on top of the copper and wood frame. So back in the old days, we do not have many sculptures. But back in the early warring states, we already have some of the sculptures. And we don't have any weapons that has been unearthed from that time. However, for the statues alongside with the chime bells, you can see 6 people. They're actually equipped of the copper axe. And also the era of the period also carved on these sculptures of the chime bells. So if we can look at all of those era that has been printed or carved on these chime bells, then we will understand when is the time these chime bells was made. So actually these chime bells was given as a present from the king of Chu to the Marquis Yi of the Zheng state. Can you tell us more about the history? So for the early states of the warring states, there have very good relations between the Zheng state and the Chu state, so that for this piece of artifacts is considered as a gift presented by the Chu state. Well, today we can see many visitors inside of the exhibition hall. So actually, in this exhibition hall, we have 125 musical instruments displayed here. For example, we have the bronze bells and the stone chimes. So for the middle part of this exhibition hall, it displays the chime bells from the tomb of Marquis Yi of the Zheng state. So on the other side, you could see other types of unearthed artifacts. Well, altogether, we have 125 pieces of musical instruments here, which can be categorized in 8 types. For example, we could see the bronze bells and the stone chimes, drums, and the pluck instruments, and se, which is also a pluck instrument. And also we have the reed pipe wind instrument and bamboo flute. So it is only on important occasions that people will use bronze bells and the stone chimes. People will use it in the sacrificial occasions. Actually, in the bedrooms, they are not using the bronze bells and the stone chimes. They only use drums and the pluck instruments. Because for the stone chimes and bronze bells, they have to use in the ritual occasions. So all of the stone chimes can only be used in solemn occasions. Well, I would like to have an interview with this family. So we're from CCTV. So you're coming to pay a visit to the Provincial Museum. So when did you make the appointment? Yesterday. So the procedures is quite smooth because my kid is growing old, and then I would like to take my family to pay a visit to the Provincial Museum and to better understand the culture of Chu states. So how do you feel when you make the appointment? I'm quite excited to make the appointment. So do you come to this place often? Well, it is the first time that I came here with my family because my kids now is growing, and then he may have the chance to have a better understanding of the culture of Chu states. Have fun. So today we can see there are many visitors here. So yesterday at around 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., the Provincial Museum has sent out a post which opens appointment to the residents. So actually by 10 p.m., all of the tickets are sold out. So that is to say people are aspiring to visit the Hubei Provincial Museum, especially after 4 months of closure. So even though the Provincial Museum is closed in the past 4 months, however, the Provincial Museum is also organizing some online exhibitions. For example, we organized one online exhibition in the middle of March, and we found over 7 million viewers watching our live show of the online exhibition. So on this part, we will provide some of the profile to the visitors so they could better understand all of these relics. So for example, it compares the note names of the chime bells and the piano. It also shows the comparison of the musical scales between the chime bells and the piano. So for the different groups of notes, for chime bells and the piano, can actually match with each other. So if you look at this map, then you have a better understanding of how the chime bell is operating. If you want to have a better understanding of the chime bells, so please pay a visit to the Hubei Provincial Museum. So let's continue our journey to see more of the treasures of the Hubei Museum. And today we're quite honored to have the curator with us. So for this part is the lacquered exhibition hall. It is a color lacquer piece. So if you look closer on this piece, you could see some of the patterns displayed on this lacquer goose. So I think this is a makeup box. And on top of it, you could see some of the patterns are carved on this dressing case and the powder box. So this is actually a Mandarin duck. And if we look closer, you can see one man was actually performing the chime bells. So some people are saying actually it is not a man that has been carved on this Mandarin duck. It may be a divine beast who are performing the chime bells. So there are many speculations about all of these patterns. So first, by looking at this pattern, we can speculate that people are trying to perform the chime bells in this way. And also, I think this is a comic representation in the past days. So this is a kind of comic that has been produced back in 2,400 years ago. So this side, we are showing a man is playing the chime bell. On the other side, you can see people are playing drums. This is actually a lacquer case. It is quite rare to see this kind of treasure can be preserved for over 2,000 years. So actually, we found this piece underwater. And we have some clays to preserve this kind of piece. So that is to say, even after 2,000 years, all of this bronzeware can be preserved in a good condition. And if you look at specifically to the design of this Mandarin duck, it is quite unique, especially for the wings of the.